basically the proof of concept XWiki. Basically what we did with Jamie is to use what Jamie has just described in order to deploy an XWiki server. XWiki is an application server, is a wiki, an application wiki, and it uses a storage for storing data. So basically here the scenario is we have the application server, we have the storage, the database where we store data. We want to deploy these two components into some kind of infrastructure in order to make XWiki available to some user. So basically what we did is it's a proof of concept. So basically we use the platform. We try to use it for a concrete use case, and we wanted to test basically how we could deploy the application, the XWiki application, on different cloud providers. We also tested the new image production services in order to build on the fly the required services. In this case, it will be the storage service, and also to use the platform in order to configure the deployment so that the application is available and well configured for end users. The important thing here is that what is really nice here is, and we will see in the next slides, the image production system configuration, because these are two very interesting features of the CompatibleOne platform that allow us to provide users with components, service components that can be reused in different applications. In this case, it was, as I said, the storage component that we described as a manifest. We made available to the users as a manifest, and the other users who wants to deploy their applications using CompatibleOne can reuse this manifest and build on top of it. So what we did with the version 1 of XWiki, of the POC, of the proof of concept, basically we used the version 1 of the platform for doing basically the same thing: deploy XWiki and the database storage, and provide this deployment so that end users can use it. But what we did was define a monolithic manifest that describes all the deployment. We use pre-configured and pre-built images. So in September, I think, I had to build the image containing the story, the MySQL server in this case, the image containing XWiki, and use those images which were hard-coded into the manifest in order to deploy the service. And also there was, for the configuration of all this system, there was a lot of metadata that should be communicated to the deployed images and to the deployed applications. So for example, in this case, I had to communicate to the XWiki application server where the database server was deployed. And we had to do a lot of work around for managing this metadata communication, because at the time there was no service that in CompatibleOne that allowed us to handle metadata. Today is not the case anymore, because with all the services that have been developed in the platform, we can, first of all, build manifest and provide a declarative definition of reusable high-level services. What I want to say here is that we can build a lot of manifests that describe some kind of service. In this case, as I said before, this service will be the storage service, and make those manifests available to other users so that they can reuse them and build on top of them. There is this automated images production which allow us to describe what kind of software we want to install into an image, and with this system we are no more forced to pre-build the image we want to deploy. We just describe what we want to install into the image, and the automated image production service will take care of building the actual image. Provider independent metadata management. Finally, the CompatibleOne platform allows us to describe metadata that should be communicated to services deployed into images, and with this metadata we can configure the services that we want to deploy. And composable manifests. This is something that allows us to reuse what I described in the first point. We have those manifests describing basic services. We can build manifests by composing these services into more complex services. In what we did in this proof of concept was exactly this. We described the manifest for XWiki, which references the manifest that describe the storage service, which is a separate manifest available to all users. Okay, so I anticipate also always the slide, the next slide, but basically what I just described is what is written in this slide. So basically in this use case we will see right now a demo of what I'm describing here. We defined a high-level service for relational storage. We defined a composite manifest for the application, for the XWiki application. And in this manifest, we leveraged the image production service, the automatic configuration, deployment, and support for multiple providers. So the goal of this second version of the proof of concept was to leverage the new functionalities that are in the second version of the CompatibleOne platform, in order to automate as much as possible the deployment of the application, and to remove all the dependencies we had before on specific functionalities that were available on specific cloud providers. Demo, okay. If the gods of cloud and network are with us, let's try to do a demo of what we did. So I want just to show you what the manifest looked like. Okay, so basically this is the manifest that described the MySQL service. So basically this is a standalone manifest that describes how to provide and what is a MySQL service. So here in the notes section, this is basically the course model that we use in this manifest. Here we are saying that for us a MySQL service is something that should be deployed on a given infrastructure, which is described here, have associated an image, so a virtual machine image, where the base system is built starting from this base image, and here in the package section we basically says how to enrich the base system in order to install all the needed software for providing the MySQL storage service. So basically here we are saying that in order to build this information will be taken into account by the image production service. So we are telling to the image production service to start with a base image that should be available, of course, and to enrich this image by executing some installation logic. What we write here is whatever we want. In this case, we used an installation script that is publicly available. So what we do here is the image production service will do actually is to instantiate a base system, execute this installation script, and then snapshot the results of this operation, and this snapshot will be our MySQL service. This manifest that can be made available to everybody who wants to use a MySQL service, for example, so we can imagine in some context, somebody defines what the services are, define the manifests, and tell other people who wants to build more complex services on top of this. Here, the manifests for the basic service, use them in order to build your services. And this is what we did here in the XWiki manifest. So basically here we are saying that we want to deploy a XWiki service which should be deployed on a given infrastructure. In this case we use a pre-built image. We were not forced to. I chose to do this in order to show a mixed use case. So we can build the images starting from some installation logic, or we can also reuse pre-built and pre-existing images. So this service here says to deploy this image on a given infrastructure, and also, this is the composed manifest, to deploy a node which is of type MySQL. And this is where we reference the previous manifest. So in this manifest, which is a composed manifest, we are saying that we want to build the XWiki service by reusing the service that was described into the MySQL manifest. And in this way, we are composing high-level services into composed manifests. There is, in this case, also a configuration section. This is the metadata part of the proof of concept, where we communicate to the CompatibleOne platform what kind of metadata we want to pass to the deployed service. In this case, we want to make available to the XWiki service the location of the database node. So the result of this operation will be that the XWiki deployed image will be enriched with the metadata containing the location of the MySQL database. And also we want to communicate what is to the image, to the deployed image, how to start up the XWiki service. These two operations here allows us to configure XWiki before starting it up, and then start XWiki in order to provide the final service to the end users. Okay, so here I described a bit the manifest we are going to use. Let's try to see if everything works. So this is where I installed all the manifests and the scripts to operate with the CompatibleOne platform. So here basically I'm starting all the services that are part of the CompatibleOne platform. This is the equivalent of the 4-quadrant slide that Jamie has described earlier. I have to parse Calypso is the manifest that describe where the image production service is located, because the image production service, of course, needs a service provider in order to build the images. Now I'm parsing the MySQL manifest. So basically here I'm submitting to the CompatibleOne platform the manifest I showed you earlier, so that the CompatibleOne platform can build the actual image. Now we are operating on a cloud provider which is Innovance, which is also a partner of the project. Here we can look at what is going on. There is a floating IP address that has been reserved because it will be associated to the image that is being built. So here we are seeing the image production service at work. He started an instance using the base image we specified in the manifest. He associated the public IP address to this image, and now it's executing, it's communicating to the image all the needed instruction in order to build the image. So now we have to wait a little bit, because basically what's going on right now is that on this instance the installation script for MySQL is being executed. This installation script basically is downloading software from the internet and is installing this software on the image. So at some point, if we look at the snapshot list, we will see a new image appear, and this new image will be a snapshot of the fully installed system corresponding to the MySQL service. Here it is. The image snapshot has appeared in the list, which has the same name. These are references used internally by the platform. So in subsequent deployment, if we reference some manifest for which we have already generated an image, we will use directly this image, and we don't regenerate each time the snapshot. Okay, the snapshot is active, has been correctly saved, and there are no more. The instance has been shut down. Everything is cleaned up, and there are no more any reserved floating IPs, and what we end up is an image that can be used for deploying the other services. This is what we are going to do right now. Parser XWiki. So we submit also the XWiki manifest to the platform. So the manifest has been parsed and translated into a deploying plan, and now we are ready for actually instantiate the service. So we are saying to CompatibleOne, okay, take the XWiki plan and deploy the service. So now what's going on here? We can see in the instances at some point there will be a MySQL virtual machine that appears. This is the virtual machine corresponding to this node. So the XWiki deployment consists of two nodes, the MySQL node and the XWiki node. So now CompatibleOne is deploying the MySQL node. It associates a public IP address, so it can communicate all the metadata and the configuration metadata to the image. In our case, there was no configuration metadata for this image, and since we marked this image as private, so that we don't want to expose it to the external network, when the metadata communication is over, the IP address, the public IP address, is removed, and we have a running MySQL instance ready to be used by the XWiki instance that is deployed as the second node of because we described as this in the manifest. Here we have again an IP address for communicating all the metadata to the XWiki instance. In this case, here we are communicating metadata because we are saying to this instance where the MySQL storage is located. So basically we are communicating this IP address to the instance, and we are starting up XWiki, configuring XWiki and starting it up so that we can finally use it. So if we connect to the public IP address of the XWiki virtual machine, we can actually use an XWiki which has been deployed. Okay, so here it is. So we can use the command stop to stop the XWiki service, and if we do this, basically we will see that all the virtual machine will go away. So the service has been shut down, and of course we can also restart the service because everything has been parsed and taken into account by the platform. And if we do command start with the identifier of the service corresponding to XWiki, we will see that again MySQL is brought up by the system. At some point there will be also XWiki that will be brought up, and we have the complete service that we described into the manifest that will be made available again to the end user. And that's it. Next steps, this is again to be discussed how to continue from here, but the idea is to integrate more and more modules, CompatibleOne modules, into the proof of concept, and of course this is from my personal point of view, so from the point of view of XWiki, what will be interesting for XWiki in particular is to use the integration of the PaaS services in order to make XWiki use this PaaS service as a web application.